Welcome to Camp Conversations Parenting Edition. I'm your host, Dayna. I have a master's in counseling psychology, a background in clinical counseling, and teaching. This is a podcast chock full of resources for parents, grandparents, educators, social workers, anyone that works with children. So sit back, relax, and let's start today's conversation. Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited today to be sitting down with Geneviève Lalonde, who is an Olympian, a mother, a new teacher, just kind of does it all. And best of all, she's my cousin. And so I'm so excited to have this informal, real life coffee chat focusing around work-life balance because I think all of us are just inspired by how much it is you do and are just curious how you manage it all. So I'll let you do a little bit more of an introduction and we'll start this chat.
Yeah, thanks, Dayna. So yeah, Dayna and I are cousins. We grew up, playing Olympics in the backyard of our grandparents' country home, and pretending we were gonna be, who we were gonna be when we grew up, and playing all of the sports growing up. I think there was not one sport that we didn't try, at least. We might not have been at all good at them, but it's okay to play volleyball in the winter and on the snow, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, we grew up kind of trying to do all sorts of things, and I think that led us to a life of ambitions and dreams and hopes. And I recently, attended an event where they talked about like doing it all and like can people do it all? And they said, ultimately you can do it all, just not all at once. And I think that resonates pretty strongly with both of us.
Yeah. Um, and you're a new mom. Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
how old is your daughter?
yeah. So Evelyn is a year and a half, actually in a few days. So yeah, it's time goes by so fast as soon as you uh, don't start looking at the days and counting down to events. Yeah, she's grown up pretty quickly, starting to say a few words, so that's exciting. We are well aware that outside is not inside, and where the doors are in all buildings, how to evacuate at any good time. Um, and yeah, no, it definitely keeps you on your toes being a mother. It's, I don't know, you can't experience it until you do. And I don't know that I ever would have expected so much busyness, but so much love at the same time.
Yeah. And I mean, has your view on work-life balance shifted? I mean, was work-life balance, being an Olympian and trying to have a life and a partner and friendships, was that hard before having kids?
Yeah, I mean, you think of becoming an Olympian is like, being an athlete in general, you have to be very selfish in the sense that you have to make sacrifices or make decisions, I guess, and choices that will align with your goals. So every time you, I don't know, go out or something, you have to make a decision like, is this gonna be optimal for my performance? And so you often think about that. So I think when I was training heavily, I had kind of a few things on the go, but really learned to say no to a lot of stuff and minimized the distractions. But when you have a child around, distractions are constant and they are inevitable. They change their minds within seconds, and suddenly something that they loved is something that they hate now. And so definitely you become better at balancing, and suddenly the runs that were your primary focus of the day are now the runs that you enjoy because it's the hour to hour and a half that you have on your own where you actually don't have to think about all of these things, and where you can be confident that someone else is taking care of your child at that point. So yeah, definitely it's shifted my perspective, and I think also opened up the understanding that you can do multiple things at once and you don't just need to have like singular focuses. But also um, understanding that it's good to prioritize and to make the most of all of those little minutes. So
And I find this has been some interesting conversations that I've had with athletes that have then become mothers, is that transition from the one world to embracing sort of two worlds, the world of the athlete and the world of the mother, is that when you're an athlete, you kind of always have boundaries and limits in place enforced by you and by other people, and then productivity ladders that you can always kind of measure, like, oh yeah, I accomplished this and now the next step is this and I've got feedback on this, so I know there's an area of growth. And I personally, not that I was an athlete at your level at all, but I personally carried some of that into motherhood, and productivity and limits and boundaries are so different in motherhood. Like, there's not someone being like, Dayna, you haven't properly fueled your body to deal with the challenges of this day. Or Dayna, um, like everyone is still telling me as a new mother, you need this amount of sleep, but I wasn't able to get that amount of sleep with new babies. Like, it was so disrupted. So that became a place of anxiety. And then even my productivity compass was more around external things that I had to accomplish. And that often got validation, like, yeah, you trained this hard. And so now you're at this level. And so here's the next set of things you have to do to train. But with a child, there was no one saying, like, yeah, you achieved this thing. So here's the next milestone that's easy to measure. Or when milestones weren't happening, um, I really thought it was something that I should be able to control. But so much of parenting is actually realizing that a lot of watching your child grow is letting go of some of that control. And I found that transition a real mindset shift for me. Do you relate
yeah.
to that at all?
Yeah, 100%. I relate a lot. And let's be honest, folks, I watched Dayna grow up. But, she was always an inspiration to me. So, as she says, she's not necessarily at the level of athletics that I am. I think that's not true. Dayna has
I
done
did not
many,
do Olympic.
many things in athletics. I just happen to stick to one sport and be pretty good at running around in circles and jumping over things. So, yeah, I will still go on a ski hill and get dusted by day or hop on a bike. Oh my gosh, a mountain bike. I can't even imagine trying to follow you. So yes, just needed to make sure that was clear. And then in terms of, yeah, productivity and measurements and stuff like that, 100%, my yeah, you used to go for a workout and you can base that off of your times, I don't know, this invisible range of the data that your watch spits out based on your
Yeah.
GPS and your paces and such, like things like that, and you can evaluate them and really like look at the rigor of your run, and was it good or was it bad, and then like, yeah, how did I fuel myself, how was, like, what should I change something, like always taking the time to think about those little things. And now if I just get out the door, it's like success. Did I do exercise today? Okay, yeah, success. And yeah, and then balancing it with like all of these other things, you do kind of, you become pretty good at being okay with, um, all right, okay, we did XYZ today. So yeah, I'm a new teacher, so I've been TOCing around Victoria, which is a whole other new adventure. And I've been everything from a kindergarten gym teacher to shop and mechanics supply teacher to yeah, all sorts, art, photography, French, English, you name it. And I think being able to like adapt every day, it comes from athletics, being ready for a big game or big race on any given day. You never know what the weather's going to be. I've raced in hailstorms, I've raced in water, all kinds of rainstorms, all kinds of things, and you never really know what's going to happen, but you have to be ready for that. And so I think
You.
that kind of adaptability definitely helps in terms of motherhood and in terms of life work balance is being okay with everything not being like A plus today,
Yeah,
but checking off those boxes and saying like, yeah, I was looking back at it, it was a pretty good day. Like Evelyn learned to walk up and down a hill. That's cool. Like,
that's okay. That's what I was going to ask you because I think people listening to this really love the hacks. Like they want,
yeah,
like, give me some hacks. So, what are the hacks to being adaptable? And I just heard you say one. One
yeah,
is reflecting back on kind of doing the shift that I love to do, where productivity before having kids to me was always something measurable that I could check off the to-do list. So like, yeah, trained for 30 minutes, beat my best time by 1 minute, got the dishes done, like submitted my assignment. Like it was stuff like
yeah.
that. Whereas
Success.
now reflection is also like had 15 minutes of pure connection time with Evelyn where we got to play her favorite or read her favorite book or um, play peekaboo or got to have an uninterrupted conversation with my spouse or I had 2 minutes where I got to have a phone call with my mom. Like I've added things to that productivity list that are completely different than I would have added before motherhood. So I'm curious if you have any other hacks that you do
Hacks
to
in
be
terms of
adaptable.
things. Yeah, being prepared for the next day is always kind of our thing is like um we've always joked around that I wander around with a backpack that I'm like, since I was a kid, like you would know,
I really
I've
remember.
always had a backpack.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember that with a little fountain pony and a little backpack just
Yeah,
bobbing
yeah, I
around.
haven't grown out of it quite yet, but yeah, and the little backpack. That's Jen. I've always been prepared for, maybe I only had swimsuits in my backpack and it wasn't exactly what I needed, but like at least I had stuff in my backpack. I was ready for, if I was gonna go to a pool in the winter or whatever.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I've always had my backpack ready. And that is something that every day, no matter what, is coming the next day. I would like try and get as many things prepared for the inevitable. So, yeah, whether it's like 5 minutes at night and I'm like, okay, what does Evelyn need for daycare? How can I put those in a bag for her? She also has her own backpack. And
Apple
so,
didn't fall back from the tree.
yeah, 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 like one and a half,
She
can't
always
carry it, but,
she also
but
has the world's longest baby legs and is already like running and walking and just
yes, yeah, yeah. 8 months, tried to walk. Yeah, 8 months I was at the library and she started walking away from me. Yes, yes, has lots of energy, all of these things.
and
But
and
we,
Jen, from when you were little, this is what I remember. And so correct me if I'm wrong or if this is still how you deal
oh,
with
I
your back.
am.
But you always put things in your backpack that you surrounded like activities that you valued. So like I like how you said swimsuit. It was like I'm gonna put all this stuff so I'm prepared for the fun thing that I want to do. Is
Of
that
course.
still kind of like your
Still my
vibe?
jam? Yeah. I would say probably, yeah. There's always like good treats in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, like Dana always had chocolate in her pockets when we go skiing.
so did
That I
you.
hope that's still a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, always had like random chocolates and like would pull them out just like as, at those times where you're like, I need a pick me up on my chairlift. Yeah, so definitely still have like, yeah, treats just in case. You're always gonna be ready for a snack. And Evelyn also has lots of snacks and water bottle. The essentials too. Like I should probably have my laptop if I'm going to TOC at any school. And yeah, all the essentials, but also some of the fun things. Like there is often a pair of running shoes in there. Or if I can, I'll bike to a school and get an exercise in that way. And I think that is like, yeah, just being prepared for whatever day is going to come your way and being okay with not necessarily knowing how it's going to go. because it might turn out better than expected. And I think that's one thing that I've always valued in my relationship with my husband, John, is um, you kind of have to let go sometimes, but it turns out better than you thought. And that's okay, is to like not be aware of every step that's going to happen that day. You can plan for as much as you want, but then the like little spark of excellence will come, and that's being an athlete is waiting for that, that spark that day that's gonna everything's gonna click. And you can plan as much as you want, but ultimately that spark is going to come when it's ready. And I've only had a few races where I've really felt like everything has come together. And so why would I expect that every day is going to come together? Because it won't. But I'll still have some pretty good days.
You brought up a really beautiful point that I think attaches to from business psychology, but I always bring it back into, I think, leadership psychology from any field can be applied to parenthood, because I mean, that's what we are as parents. And one of the things that they talk about in successful uh, business ventures is usually the people that are most successful are the people that are used to having the door closed in their face, or hearing no, or not achieving that perfect level the most, right? The more you become accustomed to not finding that perfect race, or having the perfect pitch, or the perfect whatever that might be, the more, when that happens, you learn to appreciate it because you've worked so hard to get there. And you also become used to seeing failure, or maybe lack of achievement, not as a negative, but as a stepping stone of growth. And I hear you saying that being an athlete really helped you transfer that into parenthood, because yeah, I mean, you're not going to go to every race and have your peak performance, just like you're not going to show up for every day of parenting and be like, yeah, I handled everything that life threw at me today so well. And for those of you listening that don't know what a TOC is, teacher on call, so substitute teaching in other areas, which is one of the hardest positions to be in, because you are thrown into a leadership position with a group of people that have zero connection to you, or limited
Yeah.
connection. Yeah, you get the door slammed in your face a lot.
Oh my gosh, every day yeah, you, some people think, oh, it'll be easy. Like you're not actually in charge of the teaching. It's like, no, but the relationship piece of like building those connections with your students is essential to then being able to like set those boundaries. And in the same way that like with your kid, like if you don't
Yeah.
build that connection, then like you can't have, you can't tell them like, oh, like don't put your feet on the table. That's not a good idea. And yeah, and I think those are or like asking them to clear the dishes and stuff like that. If you haven't had like that kind of enjoyable dinner, then it's gonna be hard for you to like escort them over to the dishwasher. And in the same way with, yeah, being a teacher on call, you step into these classrooms and sometimes you're dealing with some like pretty major behavioral issues that you're not aware of, and you kind of have to juggle that through and manage that. But it is, yeah, it definitely has been an experience, and I don't think it's forever, and hopefully not forever. Hopefully soon enough I'll get a contract, but that's just where I am right now. So yeah.
Well, and yeah, we'll put that out into the world right now. Contract for Jen, for anyone. And so I guess one of my other big questions for you is, whenever I poll people that are listening or that follow along with this type of content, and we ask them, what are you looking for? The majority of parents are looking for ways to help calm themselves in really triggered or overwhelming moments. And who better to talk to than someone like you that has stood on a starting line with a gun about to go to like begin a race with a bunch of people watching and all of the pressures. And so I'm so curious, did you use any tools on that, or do you use still tools at the start of a race, or visualizations leading up to it, anything like that, that you now use during triggered moments as a parent, or when you find it overwhelming? Or
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think one of the thing like currently our lives have been a little bit all over the place. Last year I tried to make the Olympics. Unfortunately my body just didn't respond very well to the training, and so
How old
we did
how
have
old
to
is
kind of
Evelyn? How
yeah,
old is
Evelyn was like 6 months when we decided to pull the plug. So she would have been 10 months when the Olympics happened. So like it was
that
already
you
kind of
tried
a
is so
yeah,
amazing.
I tried. It didn't quite work out, but um yeah, we tried really yeah, quite hard, and at 4 weeks, I was back to being assessed, getting ready to at 6 weeks, I think I was running. Yeah, it was like not fast, but it was I slowly getting into the rhythm and stuff. I was definitely biking quite a bit and following a pretty regimented schedule. And and then we got to a point I had to take a year off from teachers college because she arrived in the middle of it, and so I had like a 10-week practicum left after the Olympics. So we had like, our lives have been chaotic, and throughout all of this we've kind of lugged along a little human and tried to introduce her to the world. And So I think, oftentimes when you're on the start line, you do kind of have to just take a deep breath and say like, wow, like I have made it here. Like, okay, like this is my challenge that lays ahead of me. It's like 3,000 meters, jumping over barriers. Um, you know, in Tokyo, we were competing at in an empty stadium, and we had overcome the pandemic, and we were the select few that had made that Olympic final, albeit all of these issues that were going on in the world, and we arrived there. And so it is just like, yeah, those moments of chaos can be like a moment of beauty and a time to learn. And so whenever I'm on the start line, I do take a deep breath. I also take a chance to look around. It's like, okay, where am I? Okay, here we go. This is like your singular focus is this race. And so in the same sense of parenting, you've got this child in front of you. They're having, I've had countless meltdowns the past few days. So they're having a meltdown. You have no idea you're like, okay, I've tried this, I've tried that, I've tried this. Like what can I do now? And it's being okay with like, okay, well maybe, you know, take a deep breath. What would help me in this situation? What helps Jen in this situation? Probably going for a run. Evelyn's too young to go for a run. So let's put our shoes on, let's go outside and let's just walk around. Maybe that's what can help her. And yeah, maybe in that situation that is what is going to help her. Maybe she's hungry and she doesn't know how to communicate that. And so yeah, it is being okay with like, okay, we're gonna just like walk around, and is it like, would this help you? Would that help you? And in a race, it's the same thing where you are constantly managing people around you who you're not communicating with, and
Mhm.
you're kind of watching them navigate the course and trying to predict their movements, but also kind of being responding to them, and whilst you're also like exhausted um and running, and like in Tokyo it was like peak heat. We were had to like I literally had ice cubes in my sports bra because like that
Wow.
was how, yeah, like you're managing like multiple things, and that is parenting though, is like, okay, in this situation, like is it good for me to like take that next barrier in this way or that way? And that's the same thing in parenting, where I'm holding my daughter, she's crying, and it's like, okay, well, okay, so this didn't work for her. Like, let's go around and try something else. And then if you go outside and that doesn't work, it's like, okay, well, maybe there's like, we'll do the rounds again, and just being okay with like trying it over and over again. And eventually, you'll figure it out, and you'll like, oh, okay, so that made sense. And then, yeah, being okay with like learning from it, and then taking the time later on to be like, okay, so that strategy maybe didn't work out in that situation. Like, how can we change it next time? And I think it's with our daughter, at least we have conversations with her. I know she's 1.5, but um, just telling her about like our lives and like, oh, for example, if we're going on a trip, telling her multiple days before we're going on a trip, like, and we're gonna go on an adventure. And then um the other night we woke her up because we were taking a red-eye flight. And she woke up smiling because I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe she knew.
Well, and I think you bring such a amazing piece there is that one of the things that you've carried forward from like the athlete world into both the teaching world and the parenting world that I think is so powerful and that I completely relate to is that reflection piece of, okay, we're in this moment. In this moment, I am going to like do what I have to do to move through it because this moment is not forever. And then later, when I have a moment to think about it, I'm going to start reflecting on like, how did that go? How did, was that the best choice? Or do we have other options that I could have used? And then I think another piece that I personally struggled with was that as an athlete, as a student, as a professional, I feel like a lot of the messaging that I got being raised in that way was push through the pain, like
Mhm.
push through the pain of just get to the end of the game, just like get your exam done, just get this last project finished. And I would always push through, push through, push through. And I forgot to carry that reflection piece with me into parenthood in the beginning. And I would push, 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 and then I would crash and burn because I didn't know how. I didn't have a coach saying, hey, like get off the field, or a prof saying like, hey, this last assignment, like, do you need a little extra support? And I would carry that like physical push because raising kids sometimes like you are physically pushing through the pain. Like, I'm going to feed them first. I'm going to get up with them in the night. I'm going, and I forgot to do the reflection piece of like, hey, where do I actually stand? And you said like on that start line, you do that check in with yourself like, oh, I'm too hot, let's put ice cubes in my bra, like I'm this, like regulate myself first. I need my running shoes on and I need to get outside with her. Like step one is you, and then step two is after it's all done reflecting back on, was I able to support myself first so I could show up regulated? And I love how you just explained that and articulated it so nicely.
Thanks, Day. I think we've had the benefit though of, I have two older siblings and they both have children and have, three cousins on the other side and who also have children. So I do have the benefit of being able to observe the people around me and understanding that every situation, every child, every interaction is going to be different. It's not any depending on the day, the time, whatever, everything is going to be different. But um you can take little tidbits from different people and like, oh, actually, like I really like what that person's gonna do, so I'm gonna take that and put it in my pocket. And same thing with being an athlete. It's like you kind of look at what other people around you are doing, and that's okay, but instead of comparing them, maybe like taking tidbits from them and saying like, oh, actually, like, and I've watched my husband do that all the time. He's very calm with our daughter, and he's
Mm-hmm.
really good at being very calm with her. In the moments where my head is like, ah, and it is like, oh yeah, Jen, like you have to check in with yourself, like be calm, like that kind of energy is going to be better for her and will resonate better with her, and so yeah. But I've been so lucky to be exposed by all these different humans around me and being able to learn from them because ultimately that is, growing and evolving and adapting is learning from them and then from yourself. So
Yeah. So in our last, just kind of to wrap up this conversation, I mean, some of the things that I'm hearing you say that you carry from all of the different worlds that you're living in right now are just like this power of adaptability, of not having to be kind of rigid with the plan, but carrying things with you, either like physical things in your backpack or kind of mental things in terms of like mantras of just being ready for be ready for the change, like the each these aren't failures, these are just kind of stepping stones to that like flow moment. um and then kind of the hacks of like checking in with yourself first when you feel that dysregulation piece. So like, one, is there something I can do with myself? And then the other hack of like having a little bit of space of reflection and being able to think back on, okay, like, what is it that I need? Are there things that I could tweak? Do I need to add extra things to my backpack? um, and then I'm
Probably,
yeah,
always.
and then I'm like curious. It's just as an ending for those parents watching you, wondering how you're doing it all, or maybe for the younger people or people that aspire to have as much diversity or goal setting kind of in their lives. Do you have anything to like share with them just as a closing?
Yeah, of course. And I think I said it at the beginning was like um something that I would have never expected from motherhood is like the amount of chaos. There's always something going on, but also the amount of beauty and love.
Yeah.
And I think that those little moments are just the best. That you just they can't replace anything. Those little giggles or like I don't know, just the like smiles on their faces. I can like yeah, I can picture your children like running down the lake and like just like being goofy and just like those are the moments that like you remember. Those are like you're not gonna remember all of the like crises that you went through. Those you're gonna remember the little sparks, the little days where, yeah, like they did something and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. You're your own person. Like
Yeah.
you're becoming a human and that's so exciting. And yeah, I think those are the little moments that you're gonna remember at the end of the day, and those are brilliant, and they make man life worth living. They're incredible.
And my favorite hack for that, I love that you said that, is that I've just started doing with my own kids, because I find even as they get older, like the chaos is getting even wilder, and I have trouble in the midst of chaos of remembering those moments. And that is that is a core value for me, is to just be present in some of those little like connection moments. And so I want to make sure that's a check on my to-do list. And so now in around our couch is just photo albums. And like the
Yeah.
other night, like you and I, we all met last summer for our granny's 90th. So our kids' great granny's 90th birthday. And just my kids were pulling out that photo album, and it was a day that was just like hard with them. And I can't say that there were very many giggles, and it just felt difficult. And then we opened that photo album and we were able to look at pictures of past giggles, and it made us giggle again. And I was like, all right, that is my to-do check mark for the day. Maybe I failed at everything else today, and that's okay, but I got one of those check marks. So if anyone needs a hack to collect those moments,
Yeah, photo albums are definitely the best. Yeah. Yeah, we currently have a daughter who thinks that her great grandfather is her grandfather just because they look the same. And that has brought so much joy just because it's silly. And how wonderful that she thinks that, both these people are so incredibly special to her. So
that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, Jen. And
no worries, anytime, Dana.
yeah, I really appreciate that you donated your nap time, freedom time to
Ah,
so.
that's the best time, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
we knew it was going to be a good chat because of
And,
it.
and I was really proud of myself for showing up with my running clothes on to
Yeah,
show you
I
I
didn't even.
was
Yeah,
just
it's like.
you. All right. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.